Hello and welcome. I'm your host, author Ryan M. Oliver, and this is the Mighty Books Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Mighty Books Podcast. Today with me, I have author D.L. Gardner. Diane, how are you doing this fine,
I'm doing
wet
good. How are
morning?
you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you very much. We were just comparing how wonderfully wet the weather is this morning. It's a gorgeous Washington day. So today we're here to talk about your book. In fact, you have a plethora of books, a large mound, full shelf, honestly. A couple, yeah. It says here over 27 published
Correct.
works to your credit, which is huge. What can you go into kind of break down your books? I think there's multiple series, yes?
Yes, yes. I have two series that are fantasy, and one of them is a 7-book series with a lot of little extra publications that go with it.
Wow.
And then my most recent is a 5-book series, which I'm starting another spin-off series to it. And that also has some short stories and things that are included in a book called Tales of Wonder, which is a collection of my short stories.
Mhm.
So those are my series. And then I have a mystery series that I started last year. It's kind of a cozy mystery that takes place in Port Townsend.
Oh,
Um,
perfect.
18, it's a historical mystery, 1879
Okay.
Port Townsend. I did a lot of research in the history of it, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
kind of a fun little it was a nice break from the heavy epic fantasy series. So yeah,
Yes, fantasy series is large because you're
yeah,
world building, and that can be very tiresome. That can be very tiresome. You have to
it
create
does.
everything.
Yeah.
Kind of a genie in a lamp kind of situation. So what's the name of your most recent cozy mysteries?
It's called Hoarfrost to Roses, and the series is called the Hoarfrost Mystery Series.
Excellent.
Um, yeah, Hoarfrost to Roses. I have a
Oh, very nice. Yes. Yes, I have that cover on the thumbnail too. It's a very
okay,
nice.
good,
It looks
good.
painted. Is that a painted cover?
No, actually, this is AI.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
AI is fantastically creepy and amazing at the same time.
Well, yeah, I'm an artist too, and so I
Right.
instead of trying to paint my all the illustrations that I do,
Hmm.
which would take me probably about 20 years, I use my artistic knowledge in working with AI. So a lot of it
Interesting.
is photoshopped and as well as manipulated with prompts and things.
Interesting. What program do you use?
I use Mid Journey,
Mid Journey?
mm-hmm,
Okay, okay. I like
and then
taking
Corel Paint Shop Pro.
what was that other one?
Corel Paint Shop Pro, which is the photo editing
Oh,
program.
okay. Okay.
And I use InDesign too.
InDesign. All right. Learning all the things. People ask all the time where they can do, various things for covers and whatnot, and some people are just artistic like that. I'm not. I am not at all. So having some kind of tools to help you develop covers, that is so helpful. There's so many different programs coming out there now that authors can use to make their books, creating their books be more efficient and affordable. It's
Affordable. Yeah,
affordable is
that's
big.
one thing.
Yeah, everything's
That's
so expensive. Everything's
you
so
know, I
expensive
get a
now.
lot of feedback about, not hiring an artist, but honestly, I can't afford it. I have a couple of my books in my fantasy series, I hired artists.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm writing so many books that it's just, you know, when you put a book up and people want to pay 99 cents for it, you do the math.
Yeah,
I
it
can't
just
pay $1,000 or even 500 for every book cover that I do.
yeah, it's where it's nice and great where you can support businesses if they're doing that kind of stuff. But I mean, for someone who's doing this, and you're trying to make some kind of money from it. It's a lot of work to put a book and to create
It's a
one.
lot of work. Yeah, you work
Yeah,
on a book for up to a year, just writing the book,
right.
not to mention editing and revising and then all the formatting and,
All the formatting.
yeah.
Have you used your own formatting?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I use InDesign for.
Okay.
So I
Oh, okay.
format my new books.
I've heard of one called Atticus lately.
Oh, that's recent.
Yeah,
I've been using
very
InDesign for quite a few years now.
interesting.
Um,
Interesting.
I looked into it, but I didn't see any reason since I am already,
Yeah,
know the software. There's no sense changing.
that's my thought too. Like, for editing the podcast, I have a particular program that I use to edit everything and then to record it. And my brother, who does a lot of YouTube stuff, he does his own stuff on different programs. And I'm like, I'm not changing over because it took me X amount of time to learn
Oh
enough.
yeah, it can go on forever.
It can. And you just have to get to the point where you just, pick your poison and go with it and run
Yeah.
for it. So that's great that you found your methodologies to do this. Now, I'm curious because you've got written 27 books, which is over 27 published works. When did you start?
Believe it or not, I didn't publish my first book until 2011. It's been pretty recent, but I'm not working anymore. My husband and I are both retired, and I do have family that takes up some of my time,
Sure.
but I can spend all day at the computer if I need to. Sometimes halfway into the night too.
Right.
So it's not like I have a job that I have to balance my time writing with.
Yeah, yeah, that job thing gets in the way a lot. Tell me about it. I go to work. I'm like, I could be writing right now. I could be doing all sorts of things, but I have to go, pay the bills. Barf.
Yeah,
My kids and wife expect to be fed every day. Whatever, whatever. Get over yourselves. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. The time management thing is very hard. And I've found just from being a, full-time worker and then, trying to get books out and do this, it's like having to disconnect from your characters and your story. It's so much harder to jump back in and
get back
reconnect.
into it.
It's
Yes,
such
yes,
it's like starting a car. It's the most energy output is just starting the darn thing.
exactly.
Once you're on a groove, it's great, but you got you got to start back up. So
Exactly. Got to get that focus back.
yeah, well, that brings me to my next question is so how do you remain focused? Are you just always just on that high of completing and
Not
discovering?
always. I have to make an appointment with myself. Sometimes that means I
Okay.
get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start
Oh,
writing.
wow, you are dedicated. I know I have to get up 4 in the morning for work, but I mean, there were days with my first book coming out, I would wake up at 4 a.m. and start just typing away if something struck me. But I mean, most of the time it's 7-ish during the weekend if I can get up and do an hour or two. But 4 a.m., my goodness, dedication, It doesn't have a
I
time limit.
like to I like to write when nobody's up.
Oh,
I've
yeah,
got somebody pacing behind my back or, in the kitchen eating or something. I find it more difficult to focus on what I'm doing. So
absolutely.
yeah, I have a
Absolutely.
couple of young adult grandchildren that are living with us. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. The house is a little quieter at 4 a.m. It is here too. I prefer it that way also. I usually was the kind of an late evening to the early, like midnight-ish writer for a while, but I've kind of started shifting to early morning, after going to bed.
right.
But yeah, that's what I prefer. Anyway, so your fantasy series, you've got how many books dedicated to your fantasy series? Say seven?
I have seven in the first series,
Seven the first
which was
series.
the first set of books that I wrote.
Okay.
And then recently, the last couple of 2022s when I published the Chonisi series, and there's are five books in that series.
Okay. Okay.
So, and I've had them up. I've been doing a Kickstarter for each one of them with leather bound and textured dust
Really?
jackets with gold foil and really beautiful books this last year.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing pretty well with them, kind of revising them, putting some illustrations in, and
Oh, really? Kind of different versions.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic. Is it I'm assuming that fantasy is usually very epic, usually big, world building.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I'm assuming yours is very similar.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Do you find it get a
Lots
little
of
overwhelmed sometimes with how big the story is?
Um, no, I find that inspiring.
Oh, good.
You know,
That's good.
every character that pops up has a backstory, and you go, "Oh, I can do this with this person," and
Oh,
you
it
know,
goes on and on. It's
yeah,
endless. It
yeah.
is endless. It's frighteningly endless. Now, your fantasy, is it more on the darker side? Is it kind of upbeat? I mean, what's the feel? If someone were to pick up your book, what would you describe it as?
Okay, so the first series is called Ian's Realm, and that's definitely young adult.
Okay.
And that's a portal fantasy with a young man and his dad go into another world through a computer, starting from Seattle.
Oh.
And and the boy, they're exploring the world, and they find these caves, and the dad gets lost in the caves, and then the boy gets abducted by dragon worshippers. And that begins the entire series. Of course, it goes on. He gets older.
Sure.
A little bit of sci-fi gets thrown in there because
Excellent.
the scientists on the Seattle side want to, know that he's been missing, and they want to know where he is, and so they're trying to, get into this world. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's a 7 book adventure, and I did go off with a few spin-off, you might say, novels or novellas that follow one of the other characters, and
Oh my
then
gosh.
that kind of, expands into their family and their, past and all. So
Going down the whole family tree and then some.
right.
Oh
So
my.
that's a portal fantasy, and it's
Okay.
it's epic in a way, but it's not. It's different than like a high fantasy
Right.
where the sort of Chonisi all takes place in a particular world. That's the difference, and it's a little bit darker. This sort of Chonisi is a little bit darker. There's more violence.
Okay.
So it gets darker, but it's still a noble, bright fantasy where good overcomes evil in the end. So
Yeah, yeah. Which I mean, readers are wanting that trope anyway. They want to
yeah,
see
I
us.
think so. I
Yeah.
think so.
We usually want a happy ending. You don't really want to have the end result of they close a book and throw it across the
Yeah,
room like, why did I spend 14 hours reading this? I'm so mad right now.
yeah, I don't
Everyone I
want to do
like
that.
died. Nothing happy happened. No,
Right.
they want a good outcome. They want a good outcome.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
or hope. They want hope
Hope.
for the
That's
next
it.
one.
That's hope.
Yeah. A fun time. So when you're planning all this out, is it's just imprint in your brain? Are you writing things out, outlines, or is it just
Yeah, I do outlines.
do
I'm a pantser in one way, but mostly an outliner and forming the
others?
book. And so what I do is I outline the story and the theme and the characters and how they're going to interact with each other,
Right.
and then give them a story arc from the very beginning. But then as I'm writing the chapters, that can kind of, that's a little bit more free form.
Okay.
I have a summary for each chapter, and then the conversation will, getting into their personalities will kind of, and I might have to change my outline.
Yeah, I see it as it's an
But
ever or
basically, the whole idea is already, down there. I have to
yeah.
follow something, or I'll forget where I'm going.
I am too. It's an ever organic map is kind of how I see it as. It's like kind of like
Right,
a road trip. It's like a spontaneous road trip where if you've ever been on a road trip before, you need to have places where you stop and sleep for the night. You have to have
right.
those reservations. You have certain events you want to hit. But between the events and the reservations, you can kind of just go off
Yeah, yeah,
unpaved path and hang out for a bit. That's kind of how I write mine too. And to me, I find it way more exciting than just planning everything out because sometimes you have like a right turn where you thought you were going to go straight on, like, oh wait, no, this is cool. I got to explore this little nuance with this character or
yeah,
this
yeah.
situation, and it might not change or add anything to the overall story, but it is fun to explore with that character and how they'd
Right. Well, and you're developing the characters that way. So, you
right.
have to, you don't know them personally until you start writing. So,
Yeah, yeah. Isn't that crazy? And it's so funny where like they get their own individual voices as
yeah,
as you go about, and it's just the different personalities. I found it kind of challenging though. Like I have quite a few characters in mind, and I have to really like sit down, almost refocus when I'm writing for that person. Like, okay, what are their values? What do they
yeah,
like? What do they not like? How do they speak? What, are they snarky? Are they more formal? What is it? It takes a bit to get in that headspace.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. And then
yeah.
there's some psychology behind it all too. It's like why do they act like that?
Yeah. And then that will lead to backstories.
Right. Yeah. That's the fun part.
Yeah, it is really fun. I'm doing a huge backstory right now for one of my characters, and it just keeps growing. And I just need to stop. I just need to end it somewhere and just like stop it so I can
I'll
move
just
on to
write
other
some
things.
just write another book.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's leading to. It's frustrating in a good way. It's like I didn't plan on making this. It's like, okay, well, let's just lean into it. That's a lot of it. I'm sure a lot of yours was lean into this and just go for it.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So you said the cozy mysteries, you've been doing fantasy for quite a while, and then you decided, hey, I'm gonna do a cozy mystery to 2 years ago, 22?
It was last year
Last
that
year.
I
Okay.
started writing it. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a little bit of, every book that I've written has, except for one, every book that I've written has a little bit of some kind of fantastical thing to it.
Oh,
The
okay.
only book that doesn't is a book that I wrote for my sister-in-law, whose mother was in World War II, and she wanted me to
Oh,
write a biography on her, so I did.
oh wow.
But, I couldn't put any fantasy in that.
A little hard for biographies. All of a
But
sudden, I can put
Hoarfrost to Roses takes place in Port Townsend.
okay.
But I don't call it Port Townsend. I call it Summerhill, just so that if I'm wrong about something, nobody's going to jump on my case about it.
Right. I've even heard some publishers like when you use a real place and the real name, they don't want you to have anything bad happen in there. So it's
Yeah,
like,
right.
I'm just gonna change this and make
Take
it
it out better.
something else. So that's cool. So it's
Right.
based off of Port Townsend.
But I did do a lot of research on the history. So I did that. And I've been to the town many times. And we did actually a little filming up there at Manresa Castle, which was kind of an inspiration because
Oh, that's
in
right.
Hoarfrost and Roses, there's a ghost, or what is somewhat of a ghost. What happens is there's this young man who his grandfather was very wealthy and he owned 900 acres of property. And he died and he left the property to Gray. And the railroad, back in the days when the railroad was looking to, put a railroad up there in Port Townsend, wants the property. And his grandfather said, just hang on to it, keep it, natural. And there's Indians that live there, and let them live there. And so he has this deed, and his mother married someone else after his grandfather died, or no,
Mhm.
before his grandfather died, who is also interested in the property to sell to the railroad. So there's this big money thing going on about this property. So when he finally gets the deed, that says that it's his,
Mhm.
he ends up getting stabbed, and
Ooh.
somebody tries to murder him. But his spirit it detaches and saves him and takes him up to the property where he's hiding out, and he doesn't know who it was that attacked him,
Right.
and it just happens to be next door to where our heroine is. And she has her own backstory about her parents who murdered somebody and they were hung. And so she's living with her uncle and aunt. And she's completely, disoriented because she's not real rich like her aunt and uncle are. But she sees some magic happening next door where the ghost is actually making roses bloom in the wintertime. And that's where Hoarfrost Roses comes.
Okay.
But and because Gray's grandfather was a gardener and he had these beautiful roses.
Yeah.
And so the spirit is trying to cheer up Gray, to help him get healthy again.
Okay.
And she sees these roses. She goes over there, and the spirit falls in love with her before Gray does. And so the spirit argues with Gray, because Gray, when they're detached, the spirit is his love side and his
Mhm.
kindness side, and he's very analytical, So he argues with this side of him who's in
Yeah.
love with her.
Yeah.
So anyway, the two of them have to end up having to solve the mystery of who it was that was trying to murder him, and
Okay.
so that's how the story goes.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a love story, a historical story, 1879. So that's kind of a western, since
Oh,
it's
okay.
back in those days.
Dang. So the research you did was pretty like for the most of the time. Okay, so the research you did was the historical area, and then you said it was resolved around Manresa Castle.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, back in those days, everybody believed in ghosts.
Yeah.
So, there's a ghost in in the two books that come after
Oh yeah,
Horcruxes.
yeah, yeah. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Yeah, I've seen some people exploring Manresa Castle, and I'm like, that'd be kind of cool to check out, just for the sake of doing it. It'd be kind of neat.
Yeah.
So yeah. And what's your feedback you've been getting? Because I know, I mean, we actually met at, or I saw you at the Gig Harbor Book Fair this last summer. You had your huge sprawl of books out there. I'm assuming you've got some pretty decent feedback over the
Yeah.
years.
So it's got, I don't have anything below 3 stars, and I have mostly 5 stars on the book.
That's awesome.
So I wish there was more people leaving reviews, because
I don't know.
I have book 4 started, but I didn't want to really work on it until next year to see, what the feedback was on these 3 books. So I'm
Sure.
still waiting for some reviews to see, if people are gonna. Because the next book deals with women's suffrage, and
Oh, okay.
then that's Night Eyes, and then the Winds in the Wild deals with the Indian tribe that is living on the property, and
Oh, okay.
so there's a lot of history about Port Townsend and the Indians, and then women's suffrage.
Yeah.
Washington was the first state where women got to vote.
Really? I did
Yeah,
not know that. I did not know that.
but then they
Interesting.
stopped it. Then they
Oh,
stopped letting them vote. So
what the? Like here, you could, no, never mind.
yeah, right,
Sorry.
exactly.
Psych. Just kidding. You like the freedom for a few minutes? Yeah, we're taking that
Yeah,
back.
right.
That's weird. Now, what drew you to use Port Townsend as your muse for the setting?
Oh, I love the town, and it's got really quite a colorful history. I
Yeah.
mean, there was a lot of things going on that weren't all that great. There's the opium smugglers, and then the Chinese were coming over, and then they stopped the Chinese, and so they used to have the customs would come, and if the people that were take bringing the Chinese over from Canada saw them, they would throw the Chinese people overboard.
What?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty ruthless, and there
Why?
was all sorts of weird stuff going on in Port Townsend.
Jeez, I had no idea. The only thing I knew from Port Townsend is Fort Worden. That's
Oh
about as
yeah,
much as I know about Port Townsend. I mean, we've been up there a few times for the military, do World War II and all that fun stuff. But
yeah, that comes a little bit later. So
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, what, 1940s,
yeah, right,
1940s time frame. Yeah. It's a beautiful area. We love going up there to just check out the area, and it's gorgeous.
yeah,
I mean, it's nice and secluded. It's not too big. I love the smaller towns anyway. And what a
yeah,
great spot for, any kind of, I mean, ghost stories or mysteries, cozy mysteries, especially because they're usually defined as someone who's not a detective per se and is involved in some
right,
kind of a
right.
mystery
Amateur
or murder
story.
mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, something to that effect. Well, so to add to that, I saw something about you writing screenplays. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've written quite a few screenplays, and I've won quite a few awards with them. Actually, I wrote a screenplay for Ian's Realm, and we performed it. We actually
Oh,
had a
really?
15-minute film done,
No way.
worked with some filmmakers from the area. And it was in the Gig Harbor Film Festival. It was in film festivals all over
That's
the world. And we
awesome.
won 14 awards, I think it was. We had so many little laurels on our poster that there wasn't any room for it later.
You got to
So
get a
it was
separate
a
poster.
concept film. Yeah, right. And you
Yeah.
can see it on Film Freeway. So yeah.
No way. That's awesome. I need to go check out
Actually,
these
I
Gig
don't know if you
Harbor.
know who Robert Miano is, but he was our wizard in the story. He's a legendary actor. You can look him up on IMDb and see.
Really?
He's been in hundreds and hundreds of films.
Well, I
Yeah.
gotta check out this Gig Harbor Festival because I've heard a couple times that there's some good film festivals coming.
Oh yeah, they really have a good reputation. The
Yeah.
Gig Harbor Film Festival does. Yeah,
When does that happen? Is it every year?
September every year.
September every. I just missed it.
Ah, yep.
So, wow, that's incredible. So, do you work with other folks writing the screenplays, or is it just you?
The ones that we did, I have done by myself.
Oh,
I've got
okay.
final draft, and I just learned how to do it. I've won a film festival over in Seattle, Beers Film Festival for another little mystery. It's a comedy mystery that I
Oh,
did,
cool.
an unconventional Mr. Peabody. It's about a vampire family who's trying to solve a murder mystery. But but I won, with I have another book called Dylan that I wrote a screenplay for, and I've won like five awards for that one. One of them,
Dang.
in Paris, and one in New York, and all over the world.
Wow.
And but right now I have the screenplay, the film, the motion picture film, the screenplay that I wrote with another gentleman over in Michigan, and he's trying to push that to see if we can't get a producer for it. So
Ooh.
we'll see what happens.
Well, that's
It's probably a big
exciting.
one, You're
That's
talking about
ex
lots of money and
money talks. Money talks, unfortunately. That's how
yeah.
it goes. If we had ample money, we get a lot of art done.
Oh man, could we ever?
Yeah. Would you have to do like a fundraiser for it, or are you just looking for a producer to fund the money that way?
We're looking for a producer to fund. I don't think we could come up with that kind of money. I don't have the reach. I mean,
Sure.
we did a fundraiser for the concept film, which is a 15-minute film,
Oh,
and that
okay.
cost about $30,000 to do.
Wow. Seriously,
But
30 grand for 15 minutes.
oh, yep, yep.
Jeez. I had no, I mean, I knew it was expensive. I didn't realize that's wildly
Oh yeah,
expensive.
well, I mean, anytime you have a cast that you have to feed, and transportation and equipment to rent, and
True.
and
True.
cinematographers aren't cheap, and
Okay.
and then you got to have a director and I mean, the whole staff. I mean, even when you're just doing it, low
That's
cost,
crazy. I mean, it makes sense when you break it down like that, itemized list of everything that, I mean, everyone expects to be paid. I mean, go figure, right? If it was
Well,
all
and
voluntary,
a lot of our actors were willing not to get paid.
yeah.
Although, but if you have any SAG actors, you have to pay them for sure, and then you have to pay for their airfare, and like it goes on and on and on. So yeah,
Yeah, it gets expensive very quickly, but man, that's nuts. That's 30 grand for 15 minutes. That's crazy. I mean, I'm sure it was you got a lot of awards for various things. So I mean, that's amazing. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
it was a lot of fun too. So I can't complain.
Yeah, well, how long so tell me, how long does it take to film and get everything done for just
It
15
took
minutes?
us for 15 minutes. It took us 3 days,
Okay.
and
Wow.
what we did was we rented a bed and breakfast up
Yeah.
in Morgan,
Uh-huh.
and it was a beautiful place right next to the National Forest.
Yeah.
And the lady who rented it to us, she had these little cabins, which is why they were real rustic cabins, which is why we chose that spot. But she also had a yurt. And in the story, the
Nice.
people live in yurts. And I thought, wow, this is perfect.
Yeah.
The
Crazy.
whole crew and everybody moved up there, lived up there for 3 days. We had my friend who is a co-producer, her husband is a chef, so he did all the cooking for everybody.
Oh.
And I think everybody that was on that crew, that was memorable for all of us. We'll never forget how much fun that was. And Robert Miano came, and we went hiking up into the woods in the rain, to do that scene, and it was like
Where can people see the film? Like can
it's
they see it
on
like on
It's
YouTube
on
or
Film Freeway, and
Fun
I'll have to
Freeway?
send you a link, for that if you're going to be posting links.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely can. It's Film Freeway?
Film Freeway.
Film Freeway. I'm gonna write that down because that just sounds cool. I need to start watching more and more short films because I mean there's a lot of independent filmmakers that are doing great things, good stories, and they're just not in the mainstream. But the only way you can look at that is looking for independent artists and filmmakers.
Oh
That
yeah, you'll find them all on Film Freeway because that's where they enter festivals with.
oh, gotcha. I'm
And most of their short films are trying to find a producer, to finance them.
gosh,
So,
that's
I
challenging.
mean, there's really no money in short films. You're spending your money in short films. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's an act of love. It's an
right.
act of love right there. That's what it is. I want this to be out in the world, but I can't pay for a whole motion picture. And then God forbid the advertising. Can you imagine the amount of money for advertising?
Oh yeah.
Yikes, that's just so much money. But ugh, just crazy, just crazy. So how often? God, that's just I'm trying to wrap my head around all the screenplay stuff. That's just nuts to think about. How many people generally are putting films up every year? Do you know?
Oh, thousands,
Oh my God.
thousands.
Up in Gig Harbor?
Oh, in Gig Harbor?
Yeah.
Well, the Gig Harbor Film Festival they choose films. You enter your film and then they pick which ones they want to show. So
Gotcha.
they have filmmakers from all over the world. They're not
Mhm.
just Gig Harbor people or Washington people. These are people from all over the world,
Wow.
Germany, Norway, wherever,
Yeah.
whoever's making films.
Yeah.
So they just, and then they have different categories. So they have documentaries and then they have, fiction, different categories that they choose from.
Right. That's
So
insane. And so, how often are you writing a screenplay? Just kind of whenever the
I
inspiration
haven't written
strikes?
one for a while because I've
Okay.
been focused on marketing my books.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Um, the thing about, if you ever want to get your book into a movie, you got to have a lot of people reading your books. So I'm kind of
That's fair.
working on that right now, hopefully. I would love to see sort of Chonisi. I think, if I could do another screenplay, I'll probably do that if I don't do Hoarfrost or Roses because that it's less expensive to do, say, a mystery,
Yeah.
than it would be a fantasy because there's a lot of CGI and FX and stuff that you have to,
Yeah, that would be a lot of work.
drag them somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know how that would even go about, how much money that would cost. A lot
Oh,
easier to pay
it's
an actor to do a scene or two versus a computer to do, and someone who control the thing. And how long would that take? I don't even know how long that
yeah,
would take to do
yeah.
computer generated anything. But so I'm curious about your editing process because you said you do your internal layout and you do some of your covers, which is
Yeah.
amazing, which is really cool. But your editing, do you hire a professional editor to go over, or what do you?
I have in the past.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on the story.
Oh,
If
okay.
there's shorter stories like Hoarfrost of Roses, I'll have other people look at it,
Sure.
and pick out typos and things like that. Some of I like sort of Chonisi, I did have concept editor. I had a concept editor with Ian's Realm.
Hmm.
So, I just kind of play it by ear.
Yeah.
My concept editors stopped concept editing,
Oh,
so I can't go back to them anymore. But I kind of just play it by ear, how much money I have at the time, because it
yeah.
is pretty expensive to have a professional editor. I do use help software like Pro Writing Aid,
Hmm.
which will help me pick out, clunky sentences and, word usage and that kind of thing. But I always do let other people. My husband's really great at editing too.
Oh, that's good.
He can see things that I don't see. So
Well, when you're so close to the story and you've looked it over 30 times,
yeah,
it's kind of just becomes a part of the scenery, and you're like, I really don't know what's wrong here. Is this even wrong? Does this look right? And like, no, this
yeah,
is doesn't flow correct or something strange. Well, that's
yeah.
good. Do you use beta readers?
I have used beta readers in the past.
Okay.
I
Okay.
have. I don't have any right. Well, it's kind of the same thing. Yeah. So yeah, I'll use beta readers. I prefer beta readers that I know rather than just,
Oh yeah.
somebody out of the clear blue.
No, yeah, that's how I would do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, is using someone you know. Because I mean, you trust them with the story. They won't go spilling the beans to everybody else. Not that I think that'd be a big deal, a big issue
Right.
or concern, excuse me. But it's more the feedback they give you. Is it going to be
Well,
constructive criticism or is it just be
there was a
criticism?
time when people were talking about having a team. So I started a Facebook group to have a team, and
Yeah.
gave everybody a PDF of my book, and I think I got feedback from one or two people.
Right.
And it was very discouraging. I mean, I'm doing this for a reason. You're getting to read my book, and I'd love to have a conversation with you about it so that I can, so that can help me as well as, give you a free read.
Right.
you know,
It just unfortunately it's just books take a long time. It's just I mean to read it, to go over it. I mean just in the matter of taking notes, and then there's so many factors that go into making a good book. And it takes a lot of dedication and time. I
uh,
mean, just from like my sister and I do a book club that we speak on in the podcast. We call it the Top Shelf Book Club, and it takes us a couple weeks of taking a book and then we take notes and put our little side notes on there and summary everything and can I get our ideas formulated. It takes a quite a while, and then we come on and talk about it for anywhere from 1 to 4 hours. It's
exactly.
just a long time consuming process. And so beta reading, I'm going to be beta reading for a buddy here in the next couple weeks. I'm looking forward to it. He does fantasy also. And I'm looking forward to it. But I have 2 weeks blocked out where I'm going to be just picking his book up, not picking it apart, but, you know, taking my time
Sure.
to really give him good feedback because I
Sure.
know I appreciate good feedback with
Yeah.
developing characters and storylines. And the continuity is what I always worried about. You
Right.
know,
The plot holes.
yeah. It's like, well, I mean, I use this example a lot. Like, oh, he had green eyes in this scene, but he had
Yeah.
blue eyes in that one. That's a
Oops.
quick fix. Yeah, oops, that's a quick fix, right? But bigger plot holes, and I won't get into that. But yeah,
Right.
that's what I would worry about. That's what I would
Right.
be really
Yeah.
concerned about.
I,
But
I do have other author friends that we work closely with, and we trade
that's good.
stories back and forth. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's
good.
not like I'm doing this all by myself.
No, and you really can't. You do have to bounce the ideas off. I mean,
Sure.
do you ever get stuck where you just can't work yourself out or write yourself out of something, or are you?
I have,
Yeah,
however, I've kind of figured out how to get over that.
yeah,
Go back. Where did I get stuck? Where
right.
was the first place that I found wasn't working? And when I can go back there and just delete a whole chapter if I have to,
Oh,
just recently I'm working on a new book,
mm,
and I read it over. I was writing right along. Everything seemed fine. I got the outline and everything, and I was
yeah.
reading it. And I think this is really boring. So
It's
so
very
I
yeah.
went back and I said, you know what? I'm going to take what they're talking about here and actually show it in the first chapter. It's an incident that happened.
There
Somebody
you go.
died. I'm just going to show the whole thing
Yeah,
and start over.
yeah.
So you have to be open like that with your book. You can't have too many, treasures that you don't want to get rid of.
Yeah,
You
I think
always
that
take those deleted scenes and put them in a file and come back to them later or make a short story out of them or, something. So,
that's what I do too. I just recently got I can't say finished editing your book. I'm not it's not until it's published, it's not done being edited yet. But I guess finally got through the first draft, second draft of it. And there are several scenes, definitely scenes and chapters. I'm like, there is no point to this being here.
yeah.
And or this is great. This would be great in a different book like showcasing. I think it was like a fight scene between one of the characters and like a couple of soldiers, and she's just kind of showing off her skills and how powerful she is. And I'm like, this is great. I love this. However, I don't need it right now.
Right, it
So
doesn't move the story forward. I have a scene like that I took completely out of my book, Thread of a Spider. And I actually, when I did a Kickstarter for Thread of a Spider, I offered the deleted scene as an extra to people. So, because I just filed it away. It's a good scene. It just didn't, do anything for the story. So,
yeah, it kind of breaks your heart to do it, but you're like, I kind of have to. Just don't delete it. Just can't take it out of the book and use it later. So I mean, you can always
yeah,
use your little nuggets, your little treasures later. It's not
yeah,
a big deal, not at all.
yeah,
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Besides the Gig Harbor Literary Society, do you belong to Gig Harbor Literary
yeah,
Society?
I do. I do.
Okay, okay. Any other networking groups or business groups you belong to at all?
The Claw,
Oh,
Kitsap
Claw. Okay.
Literary Artist, yeah.
Yep.
And I just joined the Authors Guild again. I I was with them for a while, and then I stopped paying dues, and so I joined again. So that's been kind of an off and on thing.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
But
Networking can be challenging. I mean, I'd almost prefer just networking kind of like this. This is the most networking I think I do, is, via podcast and talk with someone for, sometimes an hour, hour and a half, and coming back and talking again. It's been a really nice treat. For networking is kind of challenging for me right now because of the whole working thing. And a lot of times like, oh, we have networking group meetings at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'm like, I'm at work, guys. Like, oh, we can do it 6 p.m. so you guys can join. I'm like, I have kids, guys. I just,
yeah, I have stopped going to so many groups because I'm also an artist, and I was with the Peninsula
yeah,
Art League and the South Kitsap Artists Association and Plein Air Washington, and it's like I don't like to go to meetings for one.
no, no,
So,
no. I hate going to meetings that I'm getting paid for. I don't like going to meetings that I'm not getting paid for. Yes, it's on topics of books and writing and art and awesome. Love that stuff, but I don't want to go to a meeting about it.
and then as soon as you go to the meeting, they want you to serve on the board and it's like,
Oh, I have had so many
write the
people.
newsletter and
Yeah, I'm like, I just got off work. You mean to do more
right,
more work? I have house stuff to do and kids stuff to take. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm so the separation from work and then off time. Like anyway, I'm not a meeting fan either. I love meeting up with people,
right.
but not meetings where there's an agenda. And I get the point of it. It's important to organize whatever you're doing, but yeah, no. With committees, it's just more work. It's just more work, and I don't necessarily want to do that all the time. But anyhow, so any going forward, any actually for your art, I'm curious. So are you a painter, draw, both?
I mostly do portraits,
Oh, really? Okay.
but I have done a lot of plein air painting too, where you go out with fellow artists and paint outside and capture the sun and landscapes and that kind of thing. I did more painting a while ago.
Yeah.
Then my daughter moved into my studio, and so I kind of just stopped. She's moved out, but I still have a grandson up there. So
Oh, okay.
you know, I,
Okay.
it, I don't paint that much anymore. I might again. You
Yeah.
know, I hope to, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Have you used any of your prior paintings as covers at all, or?
Yes, I have.
That's awesome.
I've since changed the covers, so I
Well,
can't show you
sure.
any.
You have the ability to do that, which is great, that freedom to do that. So, because
When I
you're
when I painted when I did Ian's Realm, that was the first book that I wrote. Was the first three books of Ian's Realm, and I painted a dragon. It's 9 foot by 4 foot. It's a three-panel dragon. Yeah, it's huge.
dang.
And I used each panel for each book of the trilogy. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's cool. So you can put them together and have a whole painting.
yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
those are out of print right now. So because
Okay.
I put
Well,
the whole book together as one,
yeah.
and then I had the same dragon on the cover, and then since then I changed the cover to that too. So
That's still pretty awesome. I won't lie. I won't lie. That's pretty amazing. Do you still have some of your old art, or is it kind
oh
of,
yeah,
yeah?
everything's up in the studio.
That's out in the studio. Okay. That
I have
makes sense.
I've sold a lot of paintings, but
Oh,
I
cool.
have my dragon up there. He stays with me, and sometimes I go, I have a book signing or something where it's
Yeah.
feasible for me to bring him, and he's always the talk of the town. So
Oh yeah, I mean you got to do it inside. Like we did it. You and I like I said, met at the Gig Harbor art fair festival. It was kind of windy that day, so bringing things were falling over all over the place, staking things down and tying things up. Probably better be doing inside where there's no wind and
oh yeah,
it's
oh
not
yeah.
not an option. Where are you doing? Are you doing any signings or events here in the near future?
I will be at Winterfest at the
Ooh.
Peninsula High School
Oh,
with
okay.
the Greater Literary Society, Greater Gig Harbor Literary Society.
Fabulous.
I'm
That's
going to have booth
great.
up there. And
Yeah.
I will be at the Christmas market at the Methodist Church in Silverdale.
Oh, great. I didn't know they did that. They do
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
different
on
events there.
November 8th and 9th, I think it is. I have to look.
Fabulous. Very cool. Yeah, so just a lot of good. It's fun to get out and just kind of meet people in person and talk about books and stuff. Even if they don't buy anything, it's just cool to just talk and
Oh
interact.
yeah,
I always love
yeah.
it. It's a good place to meet other authors too, if there's more than just you going, obviously.
Right. Well,
So
I sell better in person than I
yeah.
do online.
Oh
So
yeah.
except aside from Kickstarter.
I think it makes sense. You kind of leverage sales a little better if they can kind of put a face to the name and they can talk a little better with you. You kind of they get that personal vibe from you, which is
Oh
great.
yeah. And it
Um,
seems like my target audience prefers paperbacks and they do ebooks.
really
So yeah,
cool.
it must be because I don't sell ebooks for diddly squats.
Yeah. Yeah, ebooks are they're something else. They're well, it's also super hard when you think about it. Like, I mean, I know I'll get choice paralysis with just choosing like, a Netflix show to watch or my
Right.
wife doesn't have this problem. She'll just like hyper download. She loves reading hers is a big romance. She's a big romance girl. So she'll read romance. Like she'll read some like fantasy romance kind of, that kind of stuff. But she'll just do like a mass download of like 5 or 6 books in a weekend and then just kind of comb her way through it in the coming weeks. It's kind of how she,
Right. And that seems to be, what kind of holds you back as an author too, because
yeah,
there's so many people offering you free books. And then even if you do a first in series, like this summer I did a first in series for Hoarfrost Roses, and I had 2,000 downloads. And
wow.
I think I've gotten feedback from two of them. And I'm sure it's because everybody else was doing free downloads. And they have so many books in their Kindle, they might not get around to it until,
20 years
2000,
later.
2027 or
Yeah, yeah. It's a heck of a challenge. I mean, I tell people this if they're talking about going into doing this for, for full time or for a hobby or whatever, becoming a published author. It's like, don't, if you're a fiction author, especially if you're a fiction author, don't quit your day job because it's not going to, there's no saying 100% whether you're going to make any money off this. You don't go in this to make money. It's not why we do this. It's because we have stories burning inside us and we want to put it on paper, put it out so hopefully somebody can appreciate the art down the road.
right. Yeah. And if you want to make money, you'll end up spending more money
Oh
than
my God,
what
yeah.
you make. It's
Just
like,
advertising, marketing. Oh my gosh. Then you get
I,
that.
and that's why I don't sell very much because I really don't get into the click through ads and that kind of thing. To me, it doesn't make any sense. So I just.
Yeah, yeah. I thought about I probably will dabble a bit in the ad thing just to see if it does anything. Kind of go, just learn a little bit because I'm interested in the different ways it's you can market it. It just seems super impersonal to me. I love like what we're doing now is talking about it, getting to know you, getting to know your stories a little bit. And it's like, oh, that's be kind of right up my alley. I might want to take a look and reading that or recommending it to people. I recommend books to a lot of people because I talk to so many folks. It's great. It's just like they like fantasy. Well, check this person out. They do a lot of this stuff. You like dragons? I know a person to I know a person that might be a good fit for you. Marketing's a challenge, though. It's a big challenge. Anyway, where can people actually get copies of their book if they're interested in reading all of your books, every single one, all 27?
Okay, well, if you're interested in all of my books, paperbacks are on gardnersart.com
Hmm.
and ebooks are on dlgardnersbooks.com because I'm using PayHip so that you can download the book as soon as you buy it. Otherwise, if I went through Square where my other website is, then I would have to send you the book, which I can do that too, but I have the ebooks on DL Gardner's book. Amazon, if you must.
Yeah, a lot of people Amazon
Barnes and
books.
Nobles. I publish with Draft to Digital, so my books are everywhere. They're at the library. All the ebooks are
Great.
Kobo, Apple.
Yeah.
You can get my books there too. Actually, not all of them. I take that back. There are some books that I don't have on all the retailers that you can only get from me on my websites. So,
As it
and then
should.
Kickstarter, but my Kickstarter links are on my websites. Those are the special edition, limited edition, signed and numbered, leather,
That sounds
beautiful,
awesome.
silk foil, textured dust jackets,
Hmm.
pretty books,
They take some money to make too. I know. I've had friends of mine who wanted mine in like you said, dust jacket, leather bound. I'm like, that sounds awesome. Let me look into it. Oh, that's a lot.
Well,
That's a lot.
if they're willing to pay, then it's
Yeah.
worth it because you can make some money off of it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is people are like, "Oh, how much money are you gonna make?" I'm like, honestly, as long as I can make enough to fund other projects. Like that's as far as I want to go. I'm not looking to become a, the next J.K. Rowling, where that'd be great.
Oh, yeah,
However, realism,
right.
realism is the thing right now. I mean, we gotta be honest with ourselves. Just if you're not having, you gotta have fun with it. That's the big thing.
Yeah, here it is.
Oh, you got one? Nice.
Yeah, well, this is a sort of Trinisi,
Oh, that's
and you
beautiful.
can see this is the desk cover, and then this is
Ooh,
the book itself,
that's amazing.
and then there's a few,
Oh,
you
some
can,
illustrations and everything like that too.
yeah,
Yeah. So for the folks at home who can't see it, she's showing me oh, that's gorgeous. They've actually got some very nice, looks like sketch art inside of there for each chapter. You've got like ornate kind of gold lettering on the actual book cover itself. Then you have the dust jacket, which it looks really nice. So I mean, that's a gorgeous book. And that one's was it Rise of the Kobe
Kobean Princess.
Princess? Okay. That's
And
gorgeous.
this book, and Fall of the Kings and Curse of Mount Rain, that's the first three books of the trilogy.
Yeah.
They will be on the book 4 Kickstarter that is coming up next spring. And you
Fabulous.
can follow the link off of my website.
If you want
And
something nice and pretty, because that's gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautifully bound book. So fabulous. Well, Diane, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you and talking about all about you're a very busy person. You're very busy and productive, wildly productive. So thank you for coming on here, taking an hour out of your day and chatting with me. I appreciate it.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And going forward, if you've got stuff you want to push out, because it sounds like you will in the future, hit me up again, hit me up and we can do this again if you'd like.
Okay, sure, I will.
Awesome. All right, guys. I really hope you enjoy this. Please go check out Diane's stuff. It's DL Gardner. That's her author handle, DL Gardner. Let's see, dlgardnersbooks.com, gardnersart.com. Check her out. Go and check out her art, her the short films, all of her 27 plus published works, which is just wild. Go explore. Go get some fabulous fiction and then also leave a glorified review. Go leave
Oh,
an
thank you.
amazing review. She needs feedback like all of us. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, stay mighty and to the